Hello. I'm probably riding my bike. It's the weekend, and it's spring. So what else to do than meet a friend and go for some coffee? Gonna go over to Yeonnidong and head to the Yeonnidong Coffee Festival. Not sure how many coffees I'll have. 3 in a day is my limit. We'll see how it goes. Usually when I meet up with friends, the location's usually the north side of Banpo Bridge. A cycling landmark in Seoul and an easy place to meet. A few weeks ago, my friend Clive from the YouTube channel Eat, Ride, Self-Realize, Repeat sent me an email about a podcast that he'd listened to. It was a podcast about happiness and an interview with an author suggesting that you can live an enriched life through experiencing the lives of other people. And he kindly said he thought of my YouTube channel. Clive also mentioned some other themes from my videos that came up in the Happiness podcast, where the author talked about doing things like changing up your commute could enrich your life. Small things like that. They didn't say specifically by bike, but of course by bike is going to make your life more enriched. So the morning of that email, I took the opportunity to ride the longer route to work, to listen to the whole thing. A lot of what they talked about in the podcast share parallels with riding bikes, so I'm going to talk about it today in this video. The podcast is The Happiness Lab with Dr. Laurie Santos, and this episode was called How to Lead the Richest Life Possible. In this podcast episode, the psychologist Shiga Oishi was interviewed about happiness, and he said there's more to life than just being happy and finding meaning. There's a third dimension, the psychologically rich life. A psychologically rich life isn't necessarily stable, successful, or even always happy. It has surprises, unfamiliar experiences, and perspective shifts. Maybe the kind of life that leaves you with stories to tell. Riding bikes will give you plenty of stories. So with happiness, people link that with feeling good and being satisfied with life. But the trap with happiness is, I think, feeling like you have to be happy. The pressure or guilt when you're not. I don't think there's anyone who's constantly happy all the time. The second main dimension that people link with happiness is meaning. Living with purpose or serving something bigger. That could be something like raising children or religion. But there's a trap with meaning as well. A lot of people think a meaningful life has to be huge, saving the world. Psychological richness is a bit more attainable. Things that can make life psychologically rich, unusual experiences or new environments, emotional ups and downs, learning and changing how you see the world. Even adversity can add depth to your life because it can shift and change your perspective. I wonder if you can guess what I think is the most accessible tool for adding richness to your everyday life. Any guesses? Of course, it's a bike. I'll talk a little bit about how that can add richness to your life. But first, coffee. We've arrived in Yeonnidong. My friend Hyunuk has cycled from completely the other side of Seoul to come here with me. I had to take him to my favourite, Dark Edition. Today there's a coffee festival where each cafe in the area has a special coffee on the menu. I think some of the cafes had some coffee classes too. It did feel kind of like a regular day though, not much like a festival. Maybe it did later on. I had to choose the coffee from the festival menu today. A cardamom affogato. There's a place in this neighbourhood that sells gelato, and they provided it for this cardamom affogato. I forgot the name of the ice cream shop though, but it was truly delicious. I love the flavour of cardamom in sweet things. And the espresso they made, the single origin espresso they made, was perfect match for the cardamom and the ice cream. Sometimes the coffee flavour can be a bit lost in the ice cream, but this punched through. Glorious. Now off for some lunch. If you don't often head to this neighbourhood, there's one restaurant that you've got to try out. I think it's been around for quite a while, and it's got some glorious noodles. Just a couple of minutes ride from Dark Edition. It's the beauty of a bike. I'd rather do a 2-minute ride than a 10-minute walk. And this restaurant gets pretty busy, so we've got to get there before the line starts. Here we are at Yeonidong Kalguksu. Kalguksu are knife-cut noodles. Kal is knife and guksu is noodles. And you know a restaurant's going to be good if they only have 2 things on the menu. Kalguksu, just with 2 different sizes, and some suyuk, some boiled hanu beef. Hanu is the Korean equivalent of wagyu, I guess. The meat was really tender. If you've ever had Tafelspitz in Austria, similar texture to that. And the kimchi and baek kimchi, white kimchi here, is so good. Maybe one day I'll be less shy and actually talk into the camera. But I'm happy to enjoy and focus on the food. And the noodles have arrived. It looks very kind of beige and simple, but the broth is incredible. I like to add a bit of black pepper, feel some extra bite. It's time to get slurping. It was kind of a culture shock when I first moved to Korea to hear everyone slurping so loudly on their noodles. But now I've fully embraced it. I think Hyunuk was quite happy with his bowl of nudes too. If you want to, you can add a bit of spice with this chili sauce with green onions. I like to start off without and then add it a bit later. Nice touch with the self-serve baek kimchi. It's impossible not to get more. And it's impossible not to leave a trail of clean bowls. I did offer the last mouthful to Hyunuk, but he kindly gave it to me. Delectable lunch. I had planned to visit more cafes for the coffee festival, but I needed a bit more time before my next caffeine fix. So we decided to ride around a bit more, go to another neighbourhood. But first stopping off at a menswear shop just around the corner. This is Khakis, a Korean brand. We arrived just when they opened. They make their own clothes and they have some other brands too, like Arc'teryx and Klattermusen. No idea about my Swedish pronunciation there. It's a lovely shop and the Khakis clothes are nice, clean looking. My kind of style. Definitely worth checking out if you're in the area, and they have a new big flagship store in Seongsu as well. I'll have to go and check that one out too. Time for coffee. I like hanging out with Hyunuk because he always has a new place that he wants to try out. Let's head over that way. Back to happiness and psychological richness and bikes. The main thing that Clive linked between the podcast and my videos is when I talked about switching up your commute in my commuting video. I'll put a link up in the corner there. In the podcast, they suggest changing your commute as a small way to spark psychological richness. I think he was talking about doing it in a car. But of course, by a bike, it's way more fun. And it isn't just commuting either. It's just any bike ride. Try a different route. Take a street you've never noticed before. Stop at a random place just because it looks interesting. Just small things to give yourself more psychological richness in your life. Another thing that Shige Oishi talked about in the podcast is serendipity. And again, bikes are the ultimate tool for serendipitous experiences. You can pause to look at some cherry blossoms or the sunset. Take a photo of your bike with a mural behind it. Chat to someone at a traffic light. Bump into someone you know. These small, unplanned moments, serendipity, are exactly what enrich your life. I'm biased, but I would argue by bike will give you more experiences like that. He also talked about playfulness and awe. There's something playful about biking, especially if you're not racing the clock. coasting downhill, weaving through trees, or traffic if that's your kind of thing, riding through puddles. Riding bikes is joyful and nostalgic. I said before, I still have the same joy riding a bike as a kid as I do now. But psychological richness and the experiences that come with it aren't always positive. Just like riding a bike isn't always positive. You could get flat tires, rainstorms, shouting at taxi drivers. None of them are ideal, but they're memorable. Things like getting lost. It could be kind of stressful at times, but often those times where you do get lost, you look back with a story to tell and a new psychologically rich experience. So setbacks might not necessarily give you happiness, but they'll give you a rich experience and maybe change the way you see yourself or the world. Right now we're not lost. I asked Hyunuk if he didn't mind if we stopped by Mangwon Market to pick up a few things. You can always find these things online, but I think the quality is much better in the market. And also, it's a more fun experience than just clicking a button on your phone and getting it delivered to your house. I came to get some Korean cooking essentials: roasted sesame seeds, sesame oil, and perilla oil. Oh, and some gochugaru too, some chili flakes. I love the smell of the freshly roasted sesame seeds. Hyunuk said he's never been to the market to buy these kind of things before, because his mum just sends them to him. So maybe this was a new psychologically rich experience for him, even though he's Korean. For me, living abroad isn't always easy, but it's definitely a rich experience. I've picked up everything I need. It's time to get out of here. A fun little side quest to the market, one of my favourite markets in Seoul. So I moved to the other side of the world, but you don't need to move across the world to reinvent your life or live richly. You just need to stay curious, break out of your routine now and again, and ride your bike somewhere new. Let things be a little unpredictable. Happiness is great, meaning is fulfilling, but this podcast has reminded me and convinced me that psychological richness is where the magic happens. I was flattered that Clive thought of me with this podcast, and I definitely did notice some similarities, links to my videos from what the professor was saying. This whole video is basically paraphrasing that podcast. I'll put the link below so you can hear it properly. It's a good listen. Back through Hongdae again, my old stomping ground where I used to party every weekend. Now I'm just coming for coffee. This cafe has actually been on my list for a while, and it was good that Hyunuk reminded me about it. A proper nice hole in the wall. This is Dodok Kwa Kyubam. They got a tiny little roaster at the back, and it's really nice on this spring day to have the doors open out onto the street. The baristas were super friendly and quite interested in our bikes, and the coffee was delicious. A few single origins available, and I ordered my first iced coffee of spring. I love the clarity of a filter iced coffee on a warm day. I used to quite like ice Americanos, but now I much prefer a filter iced coffee. I just can't believe how many nice cafes there are here in Seoul. You could go to a new one every day and never run out. I'll definitely be coming back to this one. I've certainly had plenty of psychologically rich experiences just on this short day on this bike ride. I've ridden down some new places, tried some new cafes. We even got a little bit lost. Just today was a perfect example of why I love riding bikes. I'll never get tired of it, and I'll never get tired of telling you how much I love it. Back along the Han River bike path to go and head our separate ways on our way home. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I hope you find some chances to live a psychologically rich, happy life with meaning. Let me know if you head for a bike ride and share any of your serendipitous experiences in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. See you later.